Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Hello and welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson, and I just want to share something with you. I am partnering with Care Of. Now, Care Of is a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements customized to your specific health needs. Now, you take a short quiz, answer a few questions about your diet and lifestyle and fitness, and Care Of will put together a personalized plan just for you. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that after the first segment, but I'm going to dive right into this subject, and it has to do with parents and sex. A lot of us have learned about sex from our friends, from books. Maybe we learned it in school. Some people have learned it from their parents. And for that experience, I'm wondering, because I'm going to talk about this but I'm wondering, when you had that conversation with your parents, was it something that you really got a lot of information, or were they just sort of nibbling around the edges? Because I find that a lot of parents are really uncomfortable talking, having that sex talk. So what tends to happen, and this usually happens around the time schools send those notices home saying, hey, we want to talk about this particular subject and we need your permission. And they say, hey, we can do it. This is the curriculum we're going to use. And a lot of parents are not comfortable necessarily with having someone else have that conversation with their kids because they don't always know where it's going to go. But you as a parent, you get to make those choices. You can decide how much you want your kids to know. And in that case, you can have your child opt out. So if you were a kid who was in the impact of something like that, what's interesting is, like I said, what did you learn? Who did you learn it from? And, well, was it true to what your experience was later on down the road? Because here's the thing, and I think for a lot of people, when you're having the sex talk, that when talking about it with your kids, are we talking about arousal? Are we talking about how babies are born, are made, or what are we talking about? Because when it gets down to some of the more clinical aspects of sexuality, which probably would be an easier conversation, I think a lot of parents don't have that kind of knowledge unless they've done the research. If you have a number of kids, sometimes you tell the first couple, and then the kids wind up being sort of the messenger, because the kids tend to like to be able to tell stuff that how much they know. And I've known that that's happened in a number of families because the older kids tend to have a more comfortable time having that conversation. And but back to that aspect of, so if you're a parent and you're thinking about this conversation with your child, if you have it in more of a clinical fashion, then it might be a little easier to have the conversation. Because when you're talking about arousal and things like that, that obviously gets really uncomfortable, because we're talking about how human beings react in certain experiences, and that just might feel really, really uncomfortable. And it then becomes easier when you have the school teacher talk about it, because again, they're using aids, they're using slides or internet information nowadays. And it makes it a lot easier. They're using a syllabus, so they're teaching it. They've had educators and hopefully doctors in on this and creating the information so that it stays on point and moves along. But if you find your kids are asking questions about sex, then, how do you wind up handling that? Do you stifle that? Because, some kids ask some interesting questions and, because they don't know. And kids being direct, they don't think about tact. They just basically ask the question in the language that they know to ask it in. And, sometimes when they learn things in the street, it may be a bit startling to find out what kids know. And you kind of want to be in on that part of the information gathering, because if you're finding out that your kids know a lot more than you think, and the thing about learning it in the streets, and I'm talking to the parents, is there's so much misinformation. And when you're learning something as early in life as this would happen, then you want them to get the correct information first, because the first thing in their mind that they learn tends to stick a lot easier, and then everything else that might be counter to what they already know seems harder for them to grasp and to hang on to, because what you first hear tends to be what everything else is compared to. So, that's just that learning thing, and it's not just about sex, but it's about a lot of things. So that's why it's important to get the right information first, which, in some cases makes it easier for them to learn it from an instructor who's skilled at this. But back to the parents taking this on, whereas if you're not comfortable with it, I think you can find lots of information that you can share with your kids so that you can have that honest conversation. When I say honest, I mean one that doesn't necessarily have to involve things that are graphic, because we're not trying to go there. We're really trying to teach the kids or inform them about what sexuality is, and then you can put your spin on it, your values. So if you have, if you're talking about it from a religious standpoint, then you can share your values from that standpoint. I have kids, and when they were younger, one of the things that I wanted to be sure of is that they weren't getting misinformation. So I had the conversation with them myself. And part of it was also to have them understand that they could come to me and tell me things. And I also wanted them to be honest with me, too, if I were to ask them questions, because that let me know where they were, who they had been around. And just as important, if there was misinformation, because you can learn a lot about your kids and the kinds of people they hang around, the kinds of choices that they make based on the kind of information that they share with you. And I was kind of clever at that, because I was young at one time, and back when I was younger and learning about sex, it was something that I had heard about from someone else who had heard about it from someone else. And that's why I know how important it is to get it right the first time, because when I really went to college and was taking the human sexuality classes and things, there was a lot of misinformation I got when I was younger. But we all do it when we're young, meaning get information, and what we don't know, we tend to fill in the blanks with whatever we make up, just because that's what we do. And as a parent, I want you to know that that's what your kids do. Even if you're not telling them, that's what they're going to do. They're going to get the information, whatever it is, somewhere from someone. And I would much rather it come from a person who loves and cares for the kid rather than someone who doesn't. And that's really a parent's responsibility. That's my view, to take the lead on something like that, and don't just leave it to someone else. So make the decision about how you want your kids to learn about that kind of subject. I remember thinking about my parents and how they learned about the birds and the bees, for lack of a different term, and people didn't talk about it. It was something that they just sort of ran up on, and you reached a certain age and people just assumed you knew it. And, a lot of generations of people learned about sexuality that way. And there's so many things that weren't talked about, and it just left people in the dark. And that's why for generations ago, people did things that were just crazy. Women didn't understand about menstruation, and guys certainly didn't understand it. And even the thought of childbirth. I mean, many years ago, generations ago, childbirth was something that only women and the doctors and the nurses experienced. Men weren't in the delivery room. But obviously that has since changed. But so as you can see, as society changes and the perceptions about, parenting and sex and recreation, this whole thing, we have to shift. So we have to think about, how do we want to approach this subject going forward? How do you want your kids to learn about it? And I think as parents, we have to take the lead. So think about what you want your children to learn, and better that they learn it from you than from someone else. Look, I'm going to take a break here, and I'll be right back. Hi there, this is John, the host of your podcast, and I'm partnering with Care Of. Now, Care Of is a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements that are customized for your specific health needs. What you could do is you take a short quiz and you answer some questions about your diet, your lifestyle, your fitness, and your health goals, and Care Of puts together a personalized plan just for you. So with summer approaching, make a healthy and wellness priority again for you. Care Of makes it easy to upgrade your health routine, so you give yourself support this season with a boost. And whether you're looking for energy, better sleep, to maintain stress, or something else to help you feel your healthiest, Care Of's fun online quiz will ask you about your diet, health goals, and lifestyle choices. Look, it only takes about 5 minutes to find out your personal, scientifically backed vitamin and supplement recommendations. You'll answer some easy questions like how much sleep you're getting, and are you looking for more energy? Do you need something to help support weight management or healthy hair, skin, and nails? It really gets personalized. Now, it can be hard to know what vitamins or supplements you should be taking, but Care Of makes it easy to find out what you specifically need to be your healthiest. Now, Care Of delivers daily vitamin and supplement packs, and they're all customized to your recommendations, so you're only taking what you really need. Now, depending upon your personalized Care Of plan, you'll get daily vitamin packs and or protein powder sent right to your door. It's so cute and customized. Look, the packets even say your name on them. Now, you can modify your subscription at any time when your needs or preferences change. Now, Care Of makes sure that what you're putting into your body comes from the best sources, and they're backed by an honest guidance and transparency. Look, and they're all available to you on their website. Now, they offer protein powders, which are available in individual packets for on the go, and there's also in tubs. And they're all personalized to your fitness goals and dietary preferences. The individually wrapped vitamin packets are now made from compostable, plant-based film that meets the same safety standards. So your vitamins are kept fresh while now being better for the environment. Now, vegan and vegetarian supplement options are also available to match your dietary needs and to ensure you're getting the nutrients you need for those specific diets. So here's how you're going to get this. I want you to go to your computer and you go to the website takecareof.com and enter promo code RELATIONSHIP. Now that's going to get you 25% off your first order. Once again, look, Take Care Of, takecareof.com, and enter in the promo code RELATIONSHIP, RELATIONSHIP. Now that's going to get you 25% off your first order. So give it a try. Experience the Care Of difference.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Hello and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson. And in this particular segment, I'm going to talk about parents and sex. Now, the first segment I was talking about how you might go about educating your kids about sex. And obviously, when I say parents, I'm going to relate to the children. And here's an interesting thing. Now, as children, we never thought about our parents having sex, even after we learned about it. It was just one of those thoughts we would just eliminate from our minds. We just wouldn't think about it. And I even recall a comedian talking about, as kids, when we think about our parents being intimately involved, we just kind of go, ugh, and we run out of the house screaming, that sort of thing. And I remember him making a joke about, well, if you're a parent, you want to get your kids out of the house, just start having sex and they'll run and they'll leave. He says they'll be damaged, but they'll get out of the house. But what is it about us that when we think about our parents being physically intimate, that we just kind of just go, ugh? Because I know I talked to a friend of mine recently, and she has obviously had quite a robust sex life, and she has daughters. Now, there was a time, well, I mean, of course, still, she has a very good working relationship with her daughters, loving relationship, and it seems like they talk about everything. But the minute she starts talking about her intimate relationship, then the kids just kind of cover their ears and they don't want to hear about it. And she sort of says, well, what is it? When the kids talk, mom listens. But as soon as mom talks, the kids don't want to listen. And, I had to mull that over and wonder what that was like. Because I even feel the same way. I never thought about my parents doing this. And whenever the thought came about, it was like, oh, I try to get the brain eraser going because I didn't want to think about it. But even though that's how we were all created. Now, I understand I can talk about this in a very clinical way, but I would never feel comfortable getting into a conversation about anything beyond that. And that's how I've kind of see this separation between, the parent-child sort of thing, that is children not wanting to have the image of their parents being intimate. I mean, I'm happy for them when they're able to do that, but I realize that's some of my own bias too. I'm probably going to have to do a little more and think about that. But think about that for yourself. I mean, I think everybody that I've talked to seems to have that same feeling, but maybe other people have evolved to learn it a different way, about their parents and their intimacy. Again, I'm not against them being intimate. That's so totally their business, but I just don't necessarily care to know about it when it's happening. And the other thing that I have heard many times is I've heard how daughters and moms can talk, and dads and sons can talk, and the experience that I've had with that is when the dads are kind of glad to know that the son is out there trying to get a girlfriend, and the dad will kind of cheer him on. Oh, good, he's out there doing that, and because dads are glad to know that their boys are maturing, and I mean, obviously they teach them also to be respectful of a young lady, and being a gentleman is as important as anything else. But it's nice to see that they're evolving, and I think that's the pride that a dad has when he sees his young man, son or a grandson or whatever the relationship is, that he's moving on into adulthood. Now, I had a great relationship with my mom, but I never really discussed girlfriends with my mom. That was just something I didn't even want to tell her about it, because I personally did not want to have that conversation with my mom, to be honest with you. I mean, my mom was a great lady. She's nice. I loved her, but that wasn't the talk that I wanted to have. It would have been easier talking with a guy, and with that, because I didn't want my mom asking me too many questions, because I just would have felt really embarrassed because she'd have known if I wasn't telling the truth, So that's just something that I thought about. And, the thing about dads, when dads are talking to you, sometimes they're sharing their own experience and their own advice about how to be in those situations. So it's not just about them, lecturing you, but they're kind of reminiscing. As a guy, you're kind of reminiscing a little bit, and you're sharing the information, and you do it in a nice way, and you talk about people in a nice way. And I think that also helps you learn to, how to look at these situations. When you hear people say it in a nice way and say it in a respectful way, it teaches you to be that way. And that's what I like, hearing, from the guys that would talk about it, the grown men. that would speak about sex and how young men should behave. And, women are very capable of giving that conversation. That's nothing to do with whether they're capable of it. But I just knew that I felt more comfortable talking with men about it. Now, ironically, is when you get older and you go into, let's say, a hospital, what do you see? Most of them are women. So you kind of get pushed into the situation. Well, if you're doing the intake thing, you're going to be talking to women about all your issues. So I think at some point you learn to be more comfortable. I learned to be more comfortable talking about the subject with women. So there you go. Look, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back after this. Hi there, it's John, your podcast host, and I want to share this again with you. It's talking about Care Of. Now, Care Of is really about having a good, healthy routine, and it's a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements that are customized to your specific health needs. It's a healthy routine, and with summer approaching, I'd like you to be able to make health and wellness a priority again. So what Care Of does is they ask you through an online quiz, which is really fun. They ask you about your diet, your health goals, your lifestyle choices, and it only takes about 5 minutes to find out your personal, scientifically backed vitamin and supplement recommendations. You answer some really easy questions like about how much sleep you're getting, and are you looking for more energy? Do you need something to help support weight management or healthy hair, skin, and nails? It really, really gets personalized. It's really easy and convenient. Now, it can be really hard to know what vitamins or supplements you should be taking. Care Of makes it easy to find out what you need to be your healthiest. And they know what vitamin and supplement packs you need, and all of them are customized to your recommendations, so you're only taking what you really need. Look, you get your daily vitamin packs or protein powder sent right to your door, and it's so cute and customized. Look, the packets even say your name on them. You can modify your subscription at any time when your needs or preferences change. Now, Care Of makes sure that what you're putting into your body comes from the best sources backed by honest guidance and transparency, all available to you on their website. Now, Care Of also offers protein powders, and they're available in individual packs. And they are also in tubs, and it's, like I said, it's all personalized to your fitness goals and dietary preferences. Look, the individually wrapped vitamin packets are now made from compostable, plant-based film that meets the same safety standards, so your vitamins are kept fresh while now being better for the environment. Vegan and vegetarian supplement options are available to match your dietary needs and to ensure you're getting nutrients you need for those specific diets. So here's how you're going to get 25% off. Look, you go to takecareof.com and enter the promo code relationship25. That gets you 25% off your first order. Here you go. takecareof.com, takecareof.com, and in the promo code, enter relationship25. That's going to get you 25% off your first offer. So give it a shot. I think it's well worth your time.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hello, and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson. Now, I was talking with another parent, and we were in that conversation about what it was like when we realized that our kids were sexually active, or at least had the potential to be. And I think the first question that comes to mind is, okay, where did they learn about this? And, most people learn it through word of mouth, unless you're the parent who has given the sex talk or made it available to them by signing a permission slip so they can learn about it in school. I know a lot of kids are curious about it, and in school they talk about it in very clinical terms, but that isn't always the most interesting part for kids. Kids want to know about sex and what they can do nowadays because there's so much free pornography of it that's available. That's oftentimes where kids go to for information because it's so readily available. It's easy to see, it's easy to get at. And the thing that happens, and I think this is the conversation we want to have with young people, especially because porn is so easy to get. Now, when I was young, if you went to an adult bookstore, then you had to be at least 18 to get into the store. And even if you were in a regular magazine shop that had magazines, just the stuff that was G-rated, family magazines, comic books, and things, and all the adult-related material was undercover, or they had something blocking that, and you had to be 18. It literally said that on it. You had to be 18 to look at this. So there were some restrictions on it, and because of that, it just a lot of the stuff was left up to your imagination. And like I said, now with the advent of electronic media, the internet, you can literally see sex 24 hours a day, and you can indulge your wildest fantasies. The problem with watching pornography, and this even comes from those who are actors in the business, is it's entertainment. Much like you would watch a movie and where they have stuntmen doing somersaults in the air with all kinds of things. It's really pornography in terms of the videos that you see with professional actors, because they do make a career out of this, at least for however long the audience would want to see them as a performer. Listening to an actor who has talked about the business and the weird camera angles and all of the work that's involved in creating the story, i.e. creating a fantasy. And you have to explain to people that when you're watching a movie that's pornography, it is about fantasy. It is not real. It is not necessarily real life. And when you get exposed to something that's as raw as having sex, and not having the experience in life to be able to look at that and really just know that this isn't real. Because remember, when all this stuff is new to you, it's fascinating. You get drawn into the eroticism of it, and it's like your brain switches off. You just start suspending the disbelief, and you don't really realize that this is just acting. I mean, those are actors. And until you are able to look at it and recognize that it's just actors, then you come away thinking that you as a sexual being have to be like what you see on that film. And there is a big disconnect between how guys see sex in this case and how they expect women to be, and then women feeling like they've been objectified because they are there for the pleasure of the guys. And because these conflicts exist, I mean, obviously, when you're having an intimate partner, there should be a mutual understanding about a lot of things. But the problem that I'm trying to describe here is the perception that pornography creates about what real sex between people is supposed to be like. And you find lots of conflicts. Again, so many people suspend disbelief because instead of questioning what they're seeing on film as whether that's even realistic or not, the writers and the actors and the cinematographers, in order to create interest in what they're doing, are very good at creating a story that people will buy into over and over and over again. And you really have to think outside the box to realize that is just something that's been created for your entertainment. And when you can say, be that type of objective about it. I mean, you may still be entertained by it. Maybe you won't be. But my point is in driving home the idea that as a parent, one of the things I think you want to have a conversation with your kids about is pornography, because it is so pervasive. It is so easily accessible. And you want to explain to your kids that pornography in the films, it is make-believe. It is something that has been created. And it's very difficult. It draws people in. I mean, that's what the people that make this stuff want you to do. They want you to spend your dollars, and they make money off of this. But if you don't have a handle on it, then it becomes very addicting, and can be very destructive. It is destructive, and it can be financially expensive. It can be emotionally expensive, because if you don't have a sense of reality around this stuff, then you get into relationships, sexual relationships, thinking that that's how it's supposed to be, and it isn't. And I think that's my point. You have to be able to separate that. And without the capacity to do that, without the maturity to be able to do that, then it's not going to necessarily be a good experience. You're going to have a hard lesson to learn at some point in time. So that's my point. And I say, parents, you take that one on, and your kids will be better for it. Get ahead of the curve. You need to get ahead of this. It's something you want to do ahead of time. That's my opinion. I'm John Johnson. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.